Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the League of Legends Collegiate Championship Series presented by State Farm. We're back for Game 3 on the day. Joining me once again is going to be Dylan Kleinven, but we've got a new member on the desk, someone I'm excited to introduce to the world, as it's Annabelle Uni Zinn, the brand ambassador for EG when it comes to their Genius League, and also the former VP and co-founder of esports at the University of Central Florida. Ooh, that's a mouthful, as Annabelle, you come in with quite the resume. But how are you doing today, and how excited are you for these games that we're going to see this best of 3?
I am super excited to be here, so thank you for having me. Big fan of CLOL. Unfortunate that UCF couldn't make it up to the top 32, but I am happy to be here in my own special way. So yeah, it's been great so far.
Hey, you know what? Join the party. We after years of watching NA at Worlds, we realized the way to make it the furthest in the tournaments to actually go through the broadcast. So welcome to the team. Glad to have you be on our side for this one. And also happy to see you celebrating some Collegiate Day yourself. As I know, before we dive into the schedule and take care of that housekeeping, I wanted to give you a little bit of time to actually talk about EG and their Genius League and kind of the proactivity and what you're trying to do to help out the college students.
Yeah, so I'm happy to be here to represent EG as a brand ambassador for the Genius League. The Genius League is, first and foremost, our Discord server for young professionals looking to get into esports. We do resume reviews, networking nights, we do different workshops as well for skills, whether it's around your collegiate esports program and how to level that up, or just yourself. And yeah, as a brand ambassador, I get to do a lot of fun stuff. Aside from helping with Genius League, I also get to work on my own projects for EG, specifically for me, focusing on broadcast since I'm a radio TV major. So yeah, the Genius League is it's a great place to go if you're looking to get into esports, whether you're a player or somebody who's interested in casting or just working in the industry. So yeah.
Yeah, and I know that I'll be checking more of that out at discord.gg/Genius League as well after this, and glad we can lean on your expertise for things off the Rift when it comes to developing in esports. Now to get into things that happen on the Rift, as we have to go over today's schedule. And ladies and gentlemen, if you missed the first 2 series of the day, well, I must say I really wouldn't blame you. They were rather quick, Dylan, weren't they?
Yeah, it was much of the same from yesterday. We were kind of hoping that these would be closer, but UWO and UFT Esports, they really just, they took care of business in these series. The games weren't close. Boise, unfortunately, with their sub and their roster swaps, just couldn't match UFT. And Team RPI, they probably put up the best fight that we've seen on the Academy stream, maybe over the last 2 days. I'd have to think back on day 1 a little bit, but it's unfortunate. But we're saving the best for last, right? Our final stream on Academy for the top 32. And it's going to be a good one no matter what.
Yeah, and that's what we hope to see as we're about to dive into some of these programs. But this isn't the only game going on currently, as we've had 3 streams going all day, now down to 2 streams. As if you want to see Grandview Esports take on Riverside Highlanders, you can go over to twitch.tv/Upsurge Esports to check out all the action there. But if you want to stick with us, we wouldn't hate that either, because we have a good one on our hands with Bethany Esports versus University of California, Berkeley, and Uni. I know that we were talking before this. It's the first time on the stream that we've actually had 2 varsity programs go up against each other.
Yeah, this is really going to be an interesting matchup, because not only do you get to compare the players, obviously, and their performance, but we get to compare the different programs. And I think that it's going to be a tough one, because you have Berkeley, who's been around since 2016, right? Their varsity program has quite a bit of experience. They actually made it through the playoffs last year, but unfortunately couldn't play because of COVID. So then you have Bethany, right? The kind of the newcomers to the scene, started in 2019, get to playoffs, right? Their first time. So I'm kind of excited to see this and see how it plays out.
Me as well. As you mentioned, Bethany founded their program later, but man, did they come onto the scene roaring. And I got the privilege of sitting down actually with both teams for interviews before this match. It was really fun catching up with the manager of UC Berkeley and also 3 of the team members of Bethany Esports, as they like to have a lot of good laughs. If you missed that interview, you can go check it out on their Twitter, as well as they have a hell of a media team surrounding their program as well. It was really fun to interact with them. But Dylan, I do want to dive into the teams themselves, and starting off with the West Coasters on this one, trying to be the best coasters in UC Berkeley. As I know that you have been diving into what they're bringing onto the Rift, and curious what your thoughts were checking out this team.
Yeah, Uni covered a lot of their program details, and the thing that, really I'm excited about with UC Berkeley is the fact that their roster is really solid top to bottom. They're a team that's been playing together for a bit now, and they've done some damage in collegiate before. They've made the Western Conference playoffs for 3 years in a row, and they actually qualified for the national championship last year, but due to COVID, like a lot of these other teams, they weren't able to play. So this is our first time getting to see Berkeley on the big stage, and it's going to be super exciting to see what these players have to offer. And I think, in terms of, like, we've been saying this for a couple series now, but with Boise, things didn't pan out because of the role swap. There are no role swaps in this one, ladies and gentlemen. Everything is going to be going according to plan, and the players are very evenly matched. There are some discrepancies, but they're small and minor, and they can easily be made up for by the fact that Berkeley seems like a pretty well-oiled unit going into this one.
Yeah, I like the fact you mentioned that. We just have a pentakill going on our screen right now. Is fortunate that Stream Recap's able to help us out, gather some of the highlights of all the games that it took to get to this point. And Uni, I know that UCF, your squad, fell a little bit short in trying to make it to the top 32. But what was it like, you having that hands-on experience working with the team in the past? Like, can you just describe the grind to us that it takes to even qualify for the top 32 and what these players and teams are going through?
It was definitely a struggle sometimes. For us at UCF, we are a student-run program, 100%. We try our hardest to support our players. We had managers and we had analysts, but at the end of the day, I think what's really going to make a difference for both of these teams is having coaches and having that varsity support, because there's only so much that you can do to push your students, right? Get them to play ranked, get them to grind, figure out what their picks are going to be. But I think having that additional support, right, having a space that you feel like you belong on campus, right, with different community centers or just gaming spaces in general also helps. So I think, at least in terms of the grind, right, we had our players pushing themselves, trying to grind it out and working on team morale, but we really wanted to bring them together with COVID, and that's just something that kind of also, I guess, messed us up a little bit. So happy to see both of these teams succeeding, not only in just their players aspect, but also in terms of just support on campus. It's really awesome to see.
Yeah, and transitioning a little bit to Bethany, as you kind of talked about the coaches, Bethany has one of the best coaches within the collegiate space, right? A lot of people will know him that have been around the amateur or the collegiate space. Brandon Colomer is one of the best that does it in the amateur space. And there's a reason that Bethany, within their first year as a League of Legends team, has made it this far and actually, got the vote in. It's because people have so much confidence in him and his players. And that's one thing that I think is undervalued with certain collegiate programs. People will talk about how amazing of a coach Sue is and people like that, but other teams have really great coaches and support staff too. And Bethany is one of those teams where the players really have faith in their coach, and you can see it in the champions that they play, the strategies they pull out, and things like that.
Yeah, and that's a team that firsthand, I mean, we've had some experience going up against them, Dylan. They're a tough competition, and they have a little bit of something to prove, the fact that they were an invite team so far. All of the invite teams have won. Bethany's the last one to play, getting in the top 16, and also coming from the North. That is, I'd say the sentiment around that region is that overall, pound for pound, the North is the strongest region. So I think it speaks a lot that they are the fourth team from that region that's in this tournament, and they're going to look to push to the top 16. I believe every other team from the North has won as well, with Columbia, Maryville, and Illinois State University all picking up wins here in this round of 32. So let's see if we can have that for the round of 16. And we're getting rather close to the game. So, Uni, I'm actually going to put you on the spot, force you to take a side here. Do you think you're going to get Bethany Esports or Berkeley taking the cake for this best of three?
I'm actually going to put my money on Bethany. I think that getting that rush of being brought back in is going to help with the motivation here. And I think that if they trust in their coach and they trust in their abilities, I think that they'll have an easy job of finishing off Berkeley. So,
Dylan?
Yeah, it might be a little bit biased, but I've played against Bethany, a lot of times in scrims and competition, and they're very good. My money's on Bethany.
All right, well, we're just going to have to see if those things come true. I'm glad that the NCAA is not involved. They do not sanction throwing money around on this, Uni, but we might be able to do that under the table and some side caster bets. I'll take Berkeley just to make sure that there's a little bit of I want to host gap you guys. That's really the fact coming through. We're going to take the other side. But to take us through all the action, once again, it's going to be Mad Magical and Shilling Walk. Enough of me talking. Guys, take it away.
Thank you so much. welcome back into the caster desk. I do have my UCI jacket off, so I feel like to avoid any bias, I'll take this off and go with more of an imaginary college instead. I got my Monsters University, if you ever watched that movie. My little shirt here for that. But you know what? We got to talk about these two teams, and you're very well versed with Bethany. This is what I'm saying. We got to have at least one caster here who's not too biased. But you know Bethany very well, and the desk seem to think that your team's going to be able to take it.
Yeah, Bethany's kind of a good team. I think Bethany is going to be looking to take it. I think Cubby is completely wrong. I don't know why my boy is voting against Bethany because just because I'm rocking the jersey doesn't mean that I'm 100% biased towards Bethany, but this is a team that I've been basically paying attention for the entire year. I know a lot of these guys a majority of these people are from Minnesota, and they've been putting in a lot of work. That's the good thing about Bethany. But of course, I think I got to agree with Dusty that this is probably going to be the closest match that we're going to have all day. If this is a game where we can have one game go over to University of California, Berkeley, this is the time because we look at that roster. We got 3 of them who are basically roughly around the same level. Only 2 of them are around Platinum, Diamond 5. But even then, that's a pretty solid collegiate roster. They could take names, they could take some victories, and we'll have to see what they have up in their sleeve, Alex, because let's see if Berkeley can actually upset Bethany today.
And Berkeley is a team that even last year were going to and looking like they were going to be able to take part in a tournament like this until everything kind of went downhill really fast, and we had to unfortunately cancel last year's. But here they are. They're back at it again, ready to prove themselves as a collegiate team that we have to start focusing on. Me from UCI, Zot, I want to be able to root for my UCI team, but they didn't make it. And Berkeley were the team that were able to take that spot that a lot of people, including myself, thought that UCI were going to be able to tout for themselves. So that makes me more excited going into this one. How Golden State is going to be able to play against Bethany. And like you said, there is a lot of potential for this to be the closest match we've seen, at least today.
Yeah, and again, it all depends on who wants to open up their cards first, who wants to show up all their tricks in the sleeve. And we take a look at Berkeley, they're pretty standard all the way through, whereas we look at Bethany, they do have some tricks up their sleeve. We've seen some Hammer on the bottom side when they were playing their time on Upsurge.
Yes,
we also see potential roll swaps coming in from Freeze and Hollywood because Hollywood was the former mid laner for Bethany as well. Right. That's where Bethany, if they want to pull out all their tricks today, they definitely can. We have to see what Collimer, their head coach, is going to be doing when it comes to drafts. But if I'm Bethany, I don't want to throw a lot of spice. I want to make sure I'm staying consistent because even though these are my boys, that also means that I get to flame them on cast too. Because if they mess up, they're ruining this team name. I'm gonna drop this jersey if they manage to just drop everything off the ball, guys. So y'all better try and get this victory.
That is fair. I will say, as much as I wish Heimerdinger were going to be played with the nerf that came to me recently, even if it wasn't very much, I highly doubt that we'll see that flex come in. I would love to see something like that, but I feel like most of the spice is going to come in from lane swaps, as you had talked about with Hollywood, or the jungle, where we see Rumble, Morgana, Diana, and before we get completely annoyed of seeing them every single game, similar to how Udi or Heckram had once been, we are excited. It is still that spice. It's fun to be able to see these before we completely get oversaturated with these champions.
That is something of curiosity because AP junglers are coming in, and that's where I actually wonder if Hunter actually has played and put in time on these AP junglers, because usually, if you guys know, if people are in the ladder, y'all know him as the biggest Nunu one trick on the ladder. And he's a gigantic utility jungler for the team.
Wait. What about AP Nunu?
No, he doesn't.
Yeah. AP
he doesn't play AP Nunu. No, he plays tank Nunu. He's a big utility jungler, but he has put on some carry pants before. He has picked up the Graves and the Kindred back then, but that's why I'm wondering if he actually picked up the Diana, the Morgana, the Rumble, all these different champions that have been propping up. But we'll have to see, man. I'm excited to see what Bethany has. We're not playing AP Nunu, Alex. You gotta stop.
Why?
No. We're not playing AP Nunu. It's just.
Just imagine you hide in the pixel brush.
No.
Use a full channeled alt. You delete everyone.
Stop. We're not doing that today. I mean, Bethany does that. That's gonna be on them. But now, hopefully, Hunter is not gonna pick AP Nunu, man. I swear to God.
Do it.
If he goes 0-10, I'm going to flame the crap out of him in-game and out-of-game. So I'll be like, yo, Hunter, the heck was that?
Well, what
I'm
if he
slide up in
goes
his
10
DMs.
0? What if he absolutely smurfs on it?
Then I send him a smiley face and be like, hey, done. That's it.
All right.
You know?
Sounds fair. But we are having a little bit of difficulties. We're trying to get all the players into the lobby right now, so just hang tight with us as we get this all ready. But I am going to ask you before we do hop into that. So if maybe we do see that flex come in, maybe
Sure.
Hollywood does come into the mid lane, what are the type of champions you'd expect to see him play?
Yeah, that's where we take a look at Hollywood. He's always been a control major laner, you know. Orianna, Syndra, has a pocket Ari that he can always pull out, has a pocket Talia that he can always pull out too, and Victor as well. These are the champions that Hollywood would play if he's in the mid lane, whereas Freeze, yo, he's played Vladimir, he's played Akali, he's played Silas, he's played a lot of different mid lane champions, he's played Ziggs as well. Like, that's where if you want to open up that kind of pool, whether in the mid lane or support lane, you can kind of be malleable with Freeze, whereas Hollywood, his pool is a little bit smaller, where on the bottom side, he's mainly the engaged champion, he's playing Rel, Alistar, Leona, everything else like that. Thresh as well, but then if you want to add a different flair to support, you want to add a different flair to mid lane, that's where you pushed Freeze either in the mid lane or in the support role.
Well, right now we've hopped into the bans. We see double jungle bans coming in from Bethany, both Rumble and Morgana. I wonder if they're going to go for the 3 for here, try to see if they can take away that Diana, since Berkeley, they've been focusing on more of these strong picks that certain players like Freeze on that Akali could play, or even Hunter onto that Olaf, despite the fact that we're seeing a lot more of the AP junglers. They are still taking away things that they're afraid that the other team is going to be a little bit more confident playing.
Yeah, and this is basically like the three champions that these players have been playing. Hunter, great Olaf. Hollywood, great Thresh. Freeze, great Akali. Get these champions off the table and then set yourselves up for a solid first pick, which is going to be that Tristana right off the bat. That can be flex melee, that can be flex support, flex AD carry. But Diana and Morgana being banned is actually is somewhat surprising. I thought maybe Hunter would leave them both up and then just kind of take one for the other, but I guess not. We might just go back to the old Hecker Mudir days, Alex.
All right. Right now, it does seem that Bethany is, they were giving you a little bit of hope there on that Heimerdinger, maybe have that flex bot lane, but it is going to be the Rel. And it makes me wonder, even if it's not necessarily the Heimerdinger, maybe Wizardish does want to live up to that name. I believe we've even seen Wizardish play things like that Ziggs in the bot lane before to try to be able to contend against things like Tristana, just to clear out the wave, try to be able to get these early plates, and then be able to do stuff elsewhere with the team.
Definitely can, but instead, he's not going to be looking to lock in. He's instead going to be locking in that Kaisa. Very clear that Bethany's going to be looking to dive in already. So, Rel, Kaisa, solid engage. Now the question is, where do they want to send the Tristana? Keep it in the AD carry role or keep it in the bottom lane? At this point, if I'm UC Berkeley, I keep in the bottom side and get a support counter pick for yourself. Alistar still on the table. That's a big counter that teams have already been looking to pick up. You know, we'll see if Weatherman wants to go for himself. It's going to be the Alistar. Easy clap.
Easy peasy. That's what we'd kind of expect when you see Rel on the other side. It's the handshake of bot lanes where they technically counter one another. It's just they counter whenever you try to engage. So if you see Rel go in, headbutt pulverized combination to stop that. If you see Alistar come in, same kind of thing with attract repel to immediately stun up and not let that go through. So you don't really have to worry about too much. It's going to be about the junglers and how those will be able to impact things as we get Lee Sin for Rex required.
Well, first off, we have to see where Lee Sin's going to go, because
that is true.
We've seen Lee Sin top lane spring up in the top lane. You rush that Tempest, you max out E, you get that Gore Drinker, and you do a lot of damage because you just skill check everyone. You stat check all these other top laners, and it's a menace to deal with, man. That's why I'm wondering what Solura has, what Hunter wants to answer with. Bethany, though, they'll be like, you know what, we're going to wait on see where the Lee Sin's going to go. Instead, we're going to pick a mid laner that is really good, that can beat a lot of other control mages, and set himself up for a win.
But that's also not necessarily true. Does not have to be that Lucian mid lane. Same with the Lisa.
That is true.
It could be flexed around. We're expecting that Freeze does like to play that Lucian a lot.
Freeze likes to play it a lot.
Expect it mid lane, but we always have to kind of keep ourselves tempered and what we're going to expect from these two teams, because Bethany, they are pretty convinced that that is not going to be a Lee Sin jungle as they take away more jungle pool from the side of Rex required.
And along with that, again, Hunter's pool, you know, mainly oriented towards tanks, mainly oriented towards utility junglers, nearly someone that can abuse that a bunch load. And if he does play against Lee Sin, it's a lot easier to manage because you can pick Skarner, something that Hunter's very used to. Can pick Rek'Sai that is already banned, of course. He has a lot of options when it comes to Hunter's pool if this Lee Sin does want to go in the jungle. But that's why I'm assuming that if I'm UC Berkeley, I send it to the top lane, you know?
I kind of agree with you on that one, just because, as you had mentioned, it's stat check. Stat check so many different things top lane. It's really difficult to be able to deal with. But one of the ones that I'm going to be interested to see is if we actually have either team try to focus on two of the other so that got buffed in the jungle role, Darius and Zed. These are two champions that did get buffed recently, while Zed we don't see too often. We have had a lot of junglers banned from both teams. Nunu also going to be hitting the bench by Berkeley. That means that there are these ones that are a little bit more niche, kind of further down in the pockets that you can pick.
It also reveals to me that this should be a Lee Sin jungle. You know, you don't really ban Rek'Sai unless you're knowing that you're going to be putting this Lee Sin in the jungle, and Nunu, of course, is just banning because Hunter's a great Nunu player. So,
yes.
See why that's going to be banned. Next pick is going to be Ornn. Okay.
All right.
Solid tank at the top side. Need some utility in the composition, so I can understand why. And this also means that you're setting yourself up for Hunter to get this last counter pick. Usually, we don't see this a lot when it comes to the jungle pool, where you're saving counter pick for your jungler. But Hunter loves saving that counter pick for himself just so he can have that individual agency. Hopefully, it can work out. It could definitely pose a risk because usually the lanes are able to help out that jungle pool. But let's see, as UC Berkeley, probably going to lock in this Vladimir, and this Vladimir can't go top side. It can basically get a free lane up there. And once this last pick is going to be determined, we're going to know where all these flex picks are going to come out.
Exactly. So Vladimir, mid lane, top lane could be the Lee Sin jungle or top once we get this final pick coming in from Berkeley. With that, most likely Victor coming in, that means it is going to be the standard Lee Sin. It's not going to be the fun top lane, but I also think that is respectable because going up against an Ornn, it's not like you're necessarily going to have the most kill threat over him. You really do want to be able to snowball. Ornn just gotta be a frontline tank anyways. Now, for the side of Bethany, we have a lot of AD with their team so far. And we were already talking about AP junglers being so dominant. But instead of going for either of that, they're going to now rely completely on Wizardish on this Kai'Sa with mixed damage to be the source of AP.
Yeah, very bold that Hunter's going to be picking the Xin Zhao. Yes, it does win early against Lee Sin. Yes, it does have a faster clear than Lee Sin. But
it could be AP Xin Zhao.
You're not playing AP Xin Zhao. Stop. I know you like to test all these builds, Alex, but sometimes these builds are going to stop on it.
He did get buffed not too long ago.
It doesn't matter. You're not going to play AP Xin Zhao, dog. We're not going to be Civ HDing all the way around this Summoner's Rift. This is collegiate top 32. And if I see the Xin Zhao, I know Hunter's going to build AD, and I know he wants to try and get in the back line. This is the thing, though, Alex. This Xin Zhao later on is not going to do a lot, man. Hunter's betting on himself to try and get this early game going for him and for the rest of the team. But if he doesn't, if he gets crippled in the early game, or if he goes even, Tristana answers well as Alistar stops him from diving in. Victor Gradfield's going to stop him too. I'm not actually really liking the Xin Zhao pick from Bethany team.
But what if it's AP?
It doesn't. He's same thing, dog. He's going to get blown up, man.
But what if?
It doesn't. Then Bethany's going to lose harder, Alex. I'm being honest. If they go AP, then I'm just going to take this jersey off and put the different jersey on.
We'll have to see about that. But going into what the compositions are for each team, for the side of Berkeley, I do think I like this draft a bit better than what Bethany have provided for us. For the side of Bethany, it does feel that they have to be able to get a lot of these elements going really early on. And we've seen compositions drafted even earlier today that do that same thing and work to great success. But the problem is, the side of Berkeley also have some early elements to be able to temper that of Bethany and kind of be able to hold them back and hold the line a little better than what we saw previously.
I mean, this is where you have a pretty strong case for UC Berkeley having winning lanes, man. Tristana, Alistar, they're going to push on the bottom side. Alistar, of course, is notorious for its counter to stop roll from engaging on the bottom lane. Tristana has a jump, so Tristana can buffer that as well. Mid lane, even though Lucian can get pushed, after first reset, Victor is going to be able to claim that for himself unless Priest manages to get a kill under his belt. Jungle, of course, can be favoring him, but then top lane, Unstoppable gets a free farm. And that means he's going to throw an ultimate on 3 damage dealers in the later stages. So UC Berkeley, I think they did a really good job in the way they want to answer because Bethany Esports, they showed all their lanes right off the bat. And Berkeley just, they'd be like, all right, cool. You picked this, I picked that. You picked this, I picked that. And then what happens? UC Berkeley, they have a losing jungle, but they have winning lanes all day, every day.
Exactly, and it's going to give Rex Required a lot more freedom to be able to kind of get into this game and provide a bit more to the team, even if not necessarily going to have the best matchup in the skirmishing ability against Hunter. And this is nice for Berkeley. You have Rex Required, who's filling the shoes of XU previously before him, and he wants to be able to prove himself here on this big stage in the round of 32. And what better way than giving him a Lee Sin with 3 winning lanes, right?
Yeah. All he has to do is just avoid Hunter in his individual one-on-ones, and then he's okay, man. That's all he has to do. Whereas, or if not that, he's just able to farm, and it'll just be a kick person. Someone dives on the backside, yo, let me just kick you away. Just get off my back line. That's all he wants to do, man.
Hopefully he doesn't just become a kick bot late game, you know, where it's like the Lee Sin and Elise back in the day. They were always trying to play for these early games, but if it didn't work out, you became the kick bot or you became the cocoon bot, and that's all you really were good for. Here, I want to see Rex Required be able to help out the team, find these early ganks, try to see if they can get Cutie ahead early, or maybe even unstoppable on this Vlad, because you have a Vlad that's able to get to level 9. Once he's there, it's unstoppable.
Yeah. By the way, Alex, I just got word from one of our good homies in the commentating scene, Mr. Mark Rafa Alexander Arambide. He's played against Rex Required, and he was like, yo, that dog is good. And he gave the good old Monka SIs. He's like, yo, I think Bethany got to be a little bit afraid of dealing with Rex. So now if Mark's hyping him, now we got to hype him up. I got to see if Rex Required can bring the heat, man. So if he beat Mark, I don't know, man. Maybe that got to come for something. If you could beat Mark, you could beat some of our commentating boys. You know, you deserve some credit. So I'm excited to see if you can. Especially against Hunter.
That just made me think that we need to have a Mundo Dodgeball tournament and see who's truly the best.
Between commentators or between the players, or what's the deal here? Who's competing in what?
Both.
All right, true. Yeah. All right. I feel like Dylan and Cubby will probably win because they've hit Challenger before. So
I mean, that doesn't matter in Mundo Dodgeball. I beat Ender before.
Oh, true, and Ender did hit D1 Masters, so...
Exactly, see? That's
right.
what I'm saying. It doesn't matter, so long as you know how to dodge a wrench. Oh, in this case, a cleaver.
It's about the mix-ups, man. We were just talking about fighting games recently. It's about, do I want to hold on to that cleaver, or do I want to chuck it, right? So it's all about that mix-up. You know, who's going to 50-50. So
exactly, but you know that's for another day. We got to talk about what we have here: Bethany versus Berkeley, and we have both said that we like this Berkeley draft. This draft worked out, and always when you draft more winning lanes, that's what really can make or break things. But I will say this is one of the few occasions where it might still be difficult for Berkeley, because even if you have the winning lanes, that means if someone's really good at skirmishing, such as Xin Xiao early on, that gives them ample opportunities and plenty of lanes to be able to punish, to be able to try to find these early ganks onto, and be able to get himself snowballing.
And another thing is that even though both these teams are varsity programs, UC Berkeley, player for player, they are slightly a little bit worse when it comes to that discrepancy of skill. So that can show through in this game, Alex. That's one thing that we do have to be mindful of, is that maybe even though we say that Bethany Esports, they have some losing lanes and a pretty shaky composition when dealing with Vladimir and trying to dive in, they could just outscale their opponent. That's always something that we have to consider when it comes to if you're in the losing side, is that can you just be a better player? Can you out-execute? That's something that Bethany has to show up.
And I gotta stand up for the Berkeley boys on this one. Just because we haven't necessarily heard of these players as well does not necessarily mean that they're not going to be able to hold their own against Bethany or even be able to beat them in lane. We have seen before players that we haven't necessarily heard of before come into the scene, be able to prove themselves, and be able to get solo kills against players that we thought should be the opposite. It should be those players winning. And so I'm hyped for Berkeley. I'm ready for them to come out of here, ready to rumble, maybe find themselves some early solo kills, and prove us why this is a team that we need to start talking about.
Yeah, I mean, Cutie got a pentakill in that replay, man. As long as Cutie can show up, I'm down. 1v5, man. That's what I'm saying. So Berkeley, they definitely got some spice in their team, man. I'm down to see some of these players show up and represent themselves and represent the West Coast. Whereas Bethany, of course, Calabi said, 5th seed from the North. You know, one of the most stacked regions right now in the collegiate scene, but still a good team nonetheless. And we have to see if they can continue themselves to top 16. Because at the end of the day, I know this team wants to make sure they can get to nationals and make sure they can play in the top 8. Because they want some rematches against some of the people in the North, such as Maryville and such as Columbia College.
Exactly, and you have to be able to take down a team like Berkeley if you want to even hope to be able to get those rematches and be able to then beat those teams that everyone has touted as being up in the top. And you even said it best, that the Northern region has been one of these regions in collegiate that everyone has constantly talked about because there is so much talent with players, with staff, with coaches, and as well the organizations trying to make sure to constantly build up these rosters to be able to contend.
Yeah, man. I mean, it might just be a Midwest diff in this game, Alex. This is technically. I mean, I'm from the Midwest. You're from the West Coast.
I am.
You know, you technically represent UCal Berkeley. You know.
Hey, that's why I said I got the UCI jacket off just because I'm here to see if we can be as unbiased as humanly possible. But I'm getting ready for game 1. I hope you are too, everyone out there. We got UC Berkeley, Bethany Esports. They're both loaded up onto the Rift, ready to rumble.
And right now, Alex, no crazy level ones on both sides. The one thing I do like, though, from Bethany is that they all got that BE right in front of their name. You know, that's team right there. Solid colors, solid names.
Yeah, you know, it is nice. And also having Sulora in the top lane playing for Bethany. We didn't really talk about that too much. Bethany tend to have a lot of top lane swap outs. Anjay has played before. We've seen Crabwalk, Soluri in the mid lane / top lane sub for them as well.
Yep.
It means that Bethany have a lot of varied styles that they're able to bring out whenever they're trying to be able to beat teams, because it's hard to know how they're going to be able to play if the top laner's rarely the same.
I actually want to give some more love to Solora because starting in on the Bethany program, he was a D5 player, but now he's actually hit D1 Master, so he's actually putting in a lot of work.
What's that? I only go
D4.
now.
Apologies. Diamond 4. My bad. I'm a boomer, man. I grew up in the
Same.
season 1, season 2
What's
era. So.
iron? Anyways, I remember back when bronze was all it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, right now, Hollywood was able to get a good crash down, a lot of damage back onto Weatherman. Going to be able to force back both of them. As Wizardish taking a bit of damage too, but QD2, everyone pretty much taking a good chunk of change in this exchange.
I always like that when it comes to these melee supports because it's all based on testing the opponent, kind of checking to see if they can actually react and what ability they start off with. Gosu started off with Pulverize. He didn't pull off Hollywood, or maybe he just wasn't ready. So
I don't think he was ready for it. I think it was a bit of a surprise to see Hollywood go for that early bit of aggression so quickly. But it's been evened up. They've been able to heal back up with the help of that Relic Shield, getting the minions. But unfortunately for the side of Berkeley, they are forced off in the meantime. You kind of want to be able to see if you can get that level 2. And they saw what was going to happen, that Wizardish and Hollywood were the first to be able to get that experience lead, which means if they step out too far, they could easily get jumped on.
One thing that is interesting is that Rex actually is doing a full clear on his top side and then moving to his bottom jungle, whereas Hunter, he did buff, and then another camp to make sure he's setting himself up for this bottom side scuttle. A little bit of a change. Usually we see Lee Sin players opting for a buff. It's kind of like the same path of what we see Hunter doing is buff, and then another camp, maybe another additional camp if he can clear everything, and then go to scuttle. So definitely interesting to see Rex opt into this. If I'm him, though, I'd actually want to swap back in the top side, clear out my Krugs, clear out Raptors, and then go to top scuttle. That'd probably be the more ideal path for Rex, knowing that it's going to be a volatile 4-on-4.
Oh, wow.
Instead, though,
Rex didn't get spotted out at all.
But we might see a clash.
Get around. Oh, there it is.
We might see a fight.
Now they know, unfortunately. Going to be able to get the Sonic Wave on a Hunter. Follows it up. He's taking a lot of damage, but it's going to be the trade back and forth.
Okay.
Having a little bit of damage, but now it's the flash and crash down denied.
We having a fight.
They've got the track repel. There's everyone here so far.
Flora's here too.
Looking to see if they can take down Weatherman. The jump coming in from ECQ. They got first blood. Gifted it over to Wizardish. They're taking down Rel in the back line. Hollywood is out of this one. Zulora taking a lot of damage from the explosive charge.
Oh no, he doesn't get
alive though.
He doesn't get hit.
Takes down Unstoppable. Looking to see if they can get the rocket jump, and it's right into Freeze's hands. Double kill coming in from Lucian. Bethany, this has been a great fight working out for them. It might have been rough at the beginning, but getting all these kills. Eugenia trying to be able to get away, but there is no escape here. Just needs one more charge in. It is going to be Hunter taking the kill.
Okay, all right, Bethany. They always tend to do this, Alex. I don't know why, but they always want to fight for the first scuttle on the same side. And they threw it down right off the bat. This is the biggest kind of fight that Bethany loves to do. It's what Hunter called for, and it works out at the end of the day. Freeze picks up 2 kills for himself, and we take a look at the bottom side priority. Sure, Gosu and QD are here first, but Hunter, this is where you can actually duel against Lee Sin, and take a look at the health discrepancy. It's basically even. everything's going to be coming slugging on fourth. But the most important part is that
This
Solura
TP.
called TP first, and he's able to help out in this fight before Unstoppable shows up. Wizards, of course, getting that first blood is really good, and along with that, Freeze picking up a double kill at the back end is something super pivotal. Even though UC Berkeley managed to pick up those 2 kills, it didn't really go on to the primary members because one went on a Cutie. I'm not sure where the other one went to, but having a double kill on a Freeze, another kill on a Wizardish, and another kill on a Hunter, like all the damage deals on Bethany got the kills.
Exactly. I believe it was Unstoppable who got the first kill.
Yeah.
So they
There
got
you
one
go.
onto Vladimir, which is nice.
It's
but
fine.
Like you said, it's
Yeah.
like every single member on the side of Bethany who needed to be able to get a kill, got a kill.
Yeah.
You got Hunter, Freeze got 2, Wizardish got a kill as well. You got the gold into be shared all across the board onto every one of your carries.
Yeah. And that's where you always wonder about those scuttle fights. It always happens in solo queue, and Bethany's like, you know what, we're going to kind of reproduce the same exact thing. We're just going to fight for first scuttle, see what happens. And it just comes down to many small little interactions, skill checks, and everything else. But that's where I wonder about UCal. What can you do to answer it back? Because right now, Bethany Esports, knowing that a lot of summers have been blown in that skirmish, they want to see if they can push that advantage forward. As we're getting a 6-minute dragon, Cal, they don't have any wards on it. This should be given for free over Bethany.
And there's not really much you can do at this rate. You kind of have to forfeit this one. Wait to see if you can make a play elsewhere because Bethany have gotten that early game they need to. This is what we had said in the draft that we'd expect out of them. They are a team that if they can play aggressively, utilize the skirmishing potential out of Hunter into Rex, it's going to favor Bethany. The side of Rex needs to be pretty much anywhere where Hunter isn't, making plays elsewhere if they want to be able to get that lead themselves.
I mean, you said it perfectly, Alex. I think that if I'm UCal Berkeley right now, this is weather the storm, man. Even though they have some kills on their belt, Bethany still needs to snowball this small little advantage that they have gained for themselves and punish some of these flashes. But if I'm UCal Berkeley, I just got to sit pretty, man. You got a Vladimir that scales. You got a Victor that will eventually win this mid lane match and poke out Freeze. And then on the bottom side, you do have the explosive volatility that can occur when your jungler shows up or when a TP gets called in. But UCal Berkeley, off of that early skirmish, they just need to relax.
See, this is how I can tell you're from the Midwest. You keep saying UCal Berkeley. It's like here in California, there's Cal States and there's UCs, right? So it's UC Berkeley. Some people call them Golden State and stuff, but like Cal State occasionally, but it's really rare.
But
usually people from California will call them like UC Berkeley.
But UCal Berk sounds dope.
Ooh,
Unstoppable.
Hold on. Unstoppable. He might actually lose this trade right now. Good pool.
Bottom side.
They tried to repel
Hollywood.
Hollywood, but they're turning it around. 2v3. They still come out with a kill.
Well, that's usually you don't want that though. If I'm UCal Berk, I'm gonna say that right now. I was gonna call it UCal Berk because that's a cool way. Trading one for one
UC Berkeley
isn't always a good thing because whether man goes to falling down on a gank is not something you want. However, they're getting some plates. They're looking to put some pressure on our Wizardish, which is something I like. Wizardish though.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want this. Okay.
Come on, do it.
Okay.
Go for it. You got this. I believe in you.
No.
Don't let your dreams be dreams, man.
Yeah. No. He's fine. Opposite side though, Hunter and Freeze are pressing the top side quadrant, knowing that Rex.
Rift Herald, but we got a replay to look at. Why don't we take a look at this bot lane? And gotta give credit to Hollywood, knowing he's dead, he still gets the kill.
Yeah. I think honestly, if Weatherman just doesn't walk towards Hollywood, I think he's perfectly fine. He instead of walking down south, he could just walk west, and he should be okay. Regardless, though, Bethany going to be picking that Rift Herald up for themselves at the 8-minute mark, which is pretty well timed. We don't really see this a lot anymore, where teams actually go for a very fast Rift Herald. We haven't seen it all day, but Bethany's still sticking to their guns of playing that early game. At this point, see what kind of plates they can get for themselves and who they want to put it on.
With a little bit of gold onto the side of Bethany over that of UC Berkeley. And pretty much having it in the right point. I want to see what is going to happen for Berkeley, whether or not they're going to be able to kind of deny that proper gold from going to the places of Bethany. Since with that Rift Herald, they can easily plop that bot lane, make sure it's Wizardish getting some of that gold, since you have Freeze in a great position to be able to bully around Eugenia mid lane. Hunter is always going to be able to duel against Rex, and you don't really care about getting these plates on the Solura in the top lane, but getting a kill on Unstoppable would be great, as they're going to be able to have the Hemoplate come in, the flash away, just to be able to survive.
I mean, that's the reason why you don't gank Vladimir, ladies and gentlemen. He has a pull, he has flash. I will say the Solura did time really well when it came to setting up Hunter for that W and then get the extended audacious charge. But at the end of the day, you're ganking a Vladimir, man. That's where I'm questioning Bethany and the decision making when it comes to these ganks. Because if I'm them, I should be looking to gank mid lane because Victor is a low mobility champion. Or if not that, go into the jungle, knowing that Freeze has those 2 kills and get that priority going on through.
I'd like to see bot. I'd like to see the bot lane gank,
Yeah,
because I was
that
just
works
talking
too.
about, you were even talking about getting the gold into the right places for Bethany. The best place would be Wizardish, since you know that this Cutie is always going to be pushing up with this Tristana. Tristana just innately is going to be able to shove in a Kaisa.
Exactly. Unfortunately, though, Hunter just going to be looking to just go back to clearing up. He is still ahead in CS and still ahead of Campsa, which is something that is good for himself, especially in this matchup. Rex, though, looking to see if he can actually find Hunter.
We'll be
Does
able
get
to spot
spotted.
him out.
Yeah.
But with Hollywood nearby, they even put down a control ward to be able to deny that full invade that could have happened from Berkeley. So they'll have to be a little bit safer. It's going to be some time, about 20 seconds, until we have that dragon spawning back up. Oh, unstoppable. This is a bit rougher than you'd expect in the top lane against this Ornn, where it's constantly Solura getting this great trade onto Vladimir, nearly trying to force out Hemoplague every single time it's off a cooldown.
He is walking up a little bit too much, which is why these trades aren't as ideal, but it's still a Vladimir, man. In theory, he shouldn't be dying individually in a one-on-one. Yeah, you could take some hits here and there, but because you got that innate siphon of HP, you should be okay, especially when you get that empowered Q, too, knowing that Solura is a melee champion that could take some of that hit. Right now, though, Bethany Esports using the Rift Herald in the mid lane to get free some gold for himself, too. Also sets themselves up for the second Dragon take that Bethany already on top of, which is what I'm loving right now.
Getting themselves the gold into the mid lane for Freeze. I would have liked to have seen it on the Wizardish, but really, it doesn't matter. You get one of your carries ahead, you gotta get a good shove into Eugenium. This Victor, who normally is going to be able to clear out the wave so excellently, now has his turret that is threatened at most points, that if he tries to leave this lane at all, Freeze is going to be able to take it in an instant.
Yeah. And right now, I actually want Bethany to actually look to see if they can take down this mid turret, or even then just any turret, because eventually you want to tackle some of these camps that Rex Required is farming up. You know, even though later on, UCal is going to be looking pretty good. Before I get to that, though.
Ouchies.
Okay.
That didn't look good for Eugenium there.
Usually what happens, you know, Gradyfield deters these kind of all-ins from Freeze, so the kill doesn't occur. But then eventually Eugenium is going to take a lot of damage here. I want to see him kind of flex with that laser. That's usually the best way of answering against Lucian, is just poke him out before he even walks up. So he hasn't really been doing that. Maybe just a fear of Hunter being around the corner. But regardless, UCal, even though they've lost 2 neutral objectives across the board, they haven't gotten anything. They haven't. Okay, they're okay.
Has Sanguine Pool too. Should be safe.
Okay.
Yeah, there's going to be the Hemoblade. Waiting it out. There's the 3 talent strike. Here's the ultimate. But they're going to be able to get the knock-up, and they got the kill on the Unstoppable regardless.
Yeah, can't be pulling that early, man. Unstoppable, unfortunately, missing up the guess of when Hunter wants to go, and also when Solura is going to be pulling that trigger with the ultimate. Surprised he actually opted for Sanguine Pool that early on. Because I appreciate he would have made it if he was okay.
It's hard. It's hard to really gauge that one, because remember, the 3 talent strike too is there. So if you get knocked up, you're going to die. Then it's going to be the follow-up CC train before you can even pull. So when we take a look at this replay, you just got to kind of keep that all in mind. I feel like it's just Unstoppable pushing out too far without the help coming in, because you can even see how close Lee Sin is.
Yeah, he wants the wave to crash on the turret, but he stepped up because he wanted to get the empowered Q. Hunter not laying the W, but then it just still calls for Bethany to actually commit to this. Hemoplate comes in, he does get slowed. Yeah, and he does W for the 3rd talent strike, which prompts everything. But at the end of the day, Bethany doing a good job, man, punishing it with the 3 talent strike, as you said. Good call.
Exactly. And so it's a hard read there for Unstoppable, how you're going to be able to dodge away from that, whether you're going to be able to dodge away from that. And I feel like it's one of those, there's no right answer, you know?
Yeah.
So
you die if you do, you die if you don't, kind of a sticky situation.
Exactly. And with that, Bethany still have full control. About a 3,500 gold lead for them here at 14 minutes into the game. 2 dragons to their name. Might even be able to get themselves that second Rift Herald the moment it spawns, since they have this mid lane shoving out against Eugenium, making it so that this normally Victor that is able to clear out so well against things like Lucian, can't really step out because you can have Hunter constantly there.
Yeah, and I'm really liking what Bethany's doing, and this is what I wanted to see initially of them just tackling some of these camps. You remove them off the table from Rex, man. You're not getting any of these camps. There ain't no chicken nuggets, no wolves, no frogs for you. That's what I want to see. The more they keep on doing that, the better it's going to be later on because you're not only injecting gold into Hunter, but you're moving money away from Rex. That's always something that you want to do, especially in this kind of game where you want to make sure you're pushing that early game. Solura still wants to fight this one-on-one, man.
You ever see an Ornn this Chad, man? Solura just like, I don't care if you're Vladimir, I'm going to constantly fight. Now, they have a great engage coming in, even with that unbreakable chain coming in from Weatherman.
Look at
Eugenium, man. They can get the Crescent Strike, trying to see if they can get on top of the carries. But yeah, like you said, Eugenium was safe. He was peeled back enough, and Alistar is able to absorb a lot of that pressure. But unfortunately, the turret itself barely stands.
He does lose Flash and Exhaust, though, which is two crucial summoners for themselves. This is all in preparation for this Rift Herald. We take a look at Hunter, though. He did blow that ultimate, and Eugenium did blow his ultimate as well, along with those summoner spells. It looks like Cal Berk isn't going to be looking to step up, though, as Bethany's going to look to take this.
Should they?
Yeah. I mean, they can. They do have the options for it. They do have a lot of tools and summoners for themselves, but I think at this point it's a little bit worrisome knowing that their first items haven't gone through. And it's only the second Rift Herald. Usually is not as valuable. For Bethany, he's probably just going to be looking to take that take another outer turret for themselves too, just to open up the map. But, you know, at this point, UCal can still weather the storm.
That they can. They can hold on, just waiting it out still. Now they're starting to get some of those mythics completed. You can see the Rocket Belt for Unstoppable, the Gore Drinker coming in from Rex. There's a Kraken Slayer out of Cutie too. They're keeping up at least decently well. The biggest problem is going to be how they can play around this mid lane. Since the tier 1 was taken by the side of Bethany, it now means that a lot of that jungle of Rex is wide open for the taking to be completely cleared out and warded.
But look at this, man. This is the first time we see Cal Berk setting themselves up for the Dragon first. They got a lot of river control for themselves so far. They're stopping this guard from this entrance. They want to
stack.
They're playing real patient. I appreciate this a lot.
5v5 here.
They have to watch out for that choke, though. You see both of them being very mindful of this choke. But Cal Berk, they're going to be letting Bethany walk in first and start up this Dragon. No one pulling the trigger as of yet, though, but have to be mindful of Hollywood. He's going in.
Here it is. They've got the engage. Huge knock up onto Eugenium in the back line. They lose Alistar first. Eugenium's barely... No, he's not able to escape, and now they can go Unstoppable. Unstoppable trying to be able to get away, but it's a double kill for Wizardish. Rex not healthy enough to be able to get away. The flash coming in, even with the flash from Solura, not enough. All he needs is one more Q to be able to at least get the damage. Oh, Rex barely going to be able to escape this one with the help of the movement speed, but Solura is not done. He wanted that kill so damn bad.
Yeah, he definitely did, but at the end of the day, it was because Bethany managed to get to that Dragon first. Being at Dragon first is so important because what it does is that it forces the other opponent to walk in. You look at Cal Berk, it's a team where they want Bethany to walk in too. It's a game of chicken, and for Cal Berk to back off first, to not call Bethany's bluff, is a really tough thing, and that's where you have to make that decision. It's a quick snap of the button, because when you are walking in, you look at Ghost, you look at everyone who got engaged on by Hollywood, it's so tough when you're exposing yourself by trying to be aggressive against a team that's already sitting there being stationary. And unfortunately for Cal Berk, it's going to bite them in the butt. Hopefully they'll learn for the next neutral, because as long as they're there first, they can answer this engage from Bethany.
Well, right now, Solura, he had overextended for quite some time and has no mana left. Unfortunately, that kill not landing for Rex.
Yeah, no kick.
He needs to be able to get a nice kick. Oh, yeah, like you said, no kick.
Whoa.
But Hemoplague is up. All they need is that little bit of damage, so Unstoppable can get a second kill of the game. But Hunter is here as well. Sanguine Pool, going to be able to use it. There it is, finally going to be able to get it. But the up coming in from Weatherman, crash down in from Hollywood. They were waiting it out, so that way Unstoppable can go back in and heal back up. Eugenium's on the flank, but Hunter's been doing a great job of consistently going back in and out. They got the kill, the golden out of Weatherman to barely be able to stay alive, and they got the shutdown for Unstoppable over Wizardish.
Yo, good job on Unstoppable to just make sure he's sustaining that fight all day, every day, man. He was drinking up blood left and right from all these single targets, and he's getting these empower Qs, and then, of course, Exhaust from Eugenium stops Wizardish in his tracks to stop that play and continue it onwards. Upside, though, Freeze does a good job getting that bottom hour turret for the rest of the team, but Cal, that's the sort of counterattack that I want to see, and they're doing a good job.
And they got shut down gold for Unstoppable 2 over Wizardish. That, I think, is the big thing of that entire fight. So when we take a look at this replay, we got to keep in mind that this is a team with a pretty massive deficit trying to fight, but Solora hasn't been able to back to spend any of it.
Yeah, I want you to pay attention to two things in this fight, Alex. It's about Unstoppable and him just sustaining throughout this fight, and also it's about this kick that Rex sets himself up for. Ghosty does a good job getting this headbutt pulverized, but look at Hollywood. He misses the engage, and now he's just sitting there, basically sitting pretty. Once Eugenium shows up, pay attention to this kick here where it actually works really well. It stops Hunter from going in, but also sets up Eugenium to just push out Hollywood away. And Unstoppable, of course, still staying alive, man. He's just draining HP. That was the main target that you want to focus on. Doesn't really matter if Rex goes down because he's just going to be losing value later on. It's about stopping this unstoppable, pun intended, Vladimir that's going to be running rampant later on the game goes.
And see, I was going to mention this before in that previous fight where Berkeley had lost around the Dragon. Unstoppable was only level 10.
Yeah.
You had Solora a level up above him, already having access to that second level ult, while Unstoppable didn't get that. So his heals is just not enough. And we all know that Vladimir, level 11, is a scary thing. You can't deal with him, Freeze.
Got a little answer from Freeze, man. He didn't think that Eugenium was hanging around Unstoppable 6, but he showed up just in time. And that's a good amount of bounty. Gun hand over to Eugenium. Finally getting a kill on the board, and UCal, they're definitely putting on a lot of stops, but is this correct, Goldie?
No,
I don't think that's the case.
Right. No,
I'm looking at the top screen.
I think there's something a little bugged there.
Okay,
I saw that too. I'm like, there's no way.
There's no way they
13
13.
There. Yeah. You can see it. I mean, there is definitely a lead for the side of Bethany, and they're trying to see if they can utilize that around the Baron. They were able to sneak their way in, and there's nothing to really indicate that they're on top of it. Look at Rex all the way back. There's nothing that they can do to stop this.
All right. Man, Sly Raccoons out here from Bethany. They're the Vikings, man. I thought they were supposed to just go ahead, but I guess they're plundering the Baron for themselves. Kind of dig it. Catching UCal Berkeley off guard, and cheeky little sneak coming in.
Nicely done from them. You can even see that Berkeley is like, oh, damn, what happened there? We didn't see them go on that at all. And now they're kind of trying to run around and get a couple of things. You can see Rex, he had already pathed towards the top lane, thinking that they were going to be able to get some vision control. And then immediately after it's taking, it's like, oh, shoot, I have to go bot lane instead to see if we can at least get this tier 1 bot.
And it all just comes down to the vision game. From UCal Berkeley, it's a little bit weaker right now when we compare it to Bethany Esports, specifically between Ghost 2 and Hollywood. You know, and especially because the agency that they have, they're able to just kind of walk in the top side, set up all that vision, and then just kind of determine and just use process of elimination of where UCal Berkeley is going to be. So good stuff on them. Hollywood.
A lot of damage onto Hollywood right there.
He's okay.
Even the Buster Shot coming in, but look at Freeze.
Rex.
You got to be careful.
Rex
was able to get the Sonic Wave. He goes golden to be able to
He's still
survive,
gone.
but they should be able to get the kill. The flash coming in from Freeze.
Boom.
He cannot escape from Eugenium, but on the other side, Unstoppable was able to find Hunter and try to have a trade there. They forced away Bethany, not able to get that tier 2 mid lane, even with the Baron helping him out.
Yeah, Alex, we said this is going to be a close game. It's definitely a close game because right now UCal Berkeley is going to stop this soul from going over to Bethany, even though Bethany should have had that chance of getting it for themselves, but Freeze set up just a little bit too much. Hunter around the corner, but the Dragon's already gone. And UCal Berkeley, they're now making sure they have the timer for themselves to just kind of breathe just a little bit before the soul is taken away.
And this is going to give them a lot of breathing room for the side of Berkeley. Kind of seemed like they weren't able to get any of the objectives. The 3 Dragons taken so quickly by Bethany, that Baron's stolen away from them, but being able to stop them from taking that tier 2 mid lane, stopping them from being able to get the Cloud Soul, Berkeley can breathe. They can go spend some of the gold they were able to buy from themselves, and I'd like to see exactly how they're going to be able to get that, who they're going to be able to have that gold mostly put on. But let's take a look at that replay first.
Yeah. This all just started because Hollywood stepped up a little too much. You see him just staying in that gravity field for just a little bit too long, and that started the offense for UC Burke. Rex comes in, he lands a Sonic Wave. He's like, oh, cool, bro. Yo, go gold, and it ain't going to matter. Kick goes wide, but hey, no big deal. You flash in, we're going to flash a follow. Hunter finding one-on-one against Unstoppable, but remember, this is a Vladimir that has Hourglass and can just sustain himself with that Hemo Plague, so that just basically alerts the UC Burke squad to get that dragon.
And we gotta see who's got grievous wounds on the side of Bethany, because if nobody does, how are you gonna stop this?
No one.
you're not going to be able to stop him. He is going to be an absolute terror in these upcoming team fights. And this was the idea that Berkeley had drafted for themselves. Be able to survive the early game, be able to hold the line, so that way when they got to the team fights, it's going to be a lot easier for them.
All right. This point, though, right now, Cal Berkeley stabilizing themselves. 25 minutes in, the longer they can, the better it's going to be. And they've done a good job, honestly. They've done a good job against Bethany, who has been known to be a pretty big force in the Northern Conference when it comes to their players and their team. And a lot of them are a lot more recognized compared to the side of UC Berkeley, and I'm liking that a lot. They're definitely holding their own right now, Alex.
That they are. And you know what? It's also funny because we got... So I want to ask you.
What's up?
Is a Viking better or is a Golden Bear? What would you put your money on in a fight?
Honestly, if we've seen the movie Brave, Vikings kind of win against the Bears. But it's always been a battle in history. You know, it's always been in Viking folklore about these dangerous bears and how much damage they could do against humans. You know.
You know a funny thing about the word bear too is that technically I believe the original word for bear has been lost to time because bear just meant like something else. It meant like thing over there. And they would say that about bear because they thought saying the name would invoke it and bring it to you.
You know, the fun fact about bear too is that it's short for backwards aerial in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and Super Smash Bros. Melee. So that's another way you can use bear.
I mean, yes, but we're watching League of Legends, not that. So why don't we talk about this? Because Bethany are trying to see if they can set up around this bottom half of the map. It's going to be some time until that Baron's going to spawn for itself, but same with the Dragon.
Yeah.
It is that vision control that you had talked about earlier, that Bethany have seemed to be able to have a full control and full identity of what they want to be able to do to deny anything from Berkeley.
And going back to denial, Alex, the more important thing is that Bethany is taking some of these camps here. You're going to be pushing Hunter away. Oh, that's a big ultimate actually being whiffed from Hunter. So this is a good time for UCal Berkeley to actually find a counterattack. But these camps being stripped away is very important.
Split them apart,
denying
too.
it. Yeah, they definitely want to find something.
Hollywood, Wizardish, they're all split away.
Yeah.
Hunter and Solura were on the top half of the map. They wanted to be able to chase that down, but unfortunately, it was going to take way too long. And you'd lose a lot more than you'd gain continuing to chase like that.
But still, though, UCal Berkeley, they still are just waiting the storm. Rex, even though he's not getting camps, it doesn't matter quite a bit because you need to get him some low so he can actually outsmite Hunter. But you're still waiting out the storm. And for Bethany, eventually, stripping camps isn't going to be enough. You have to figure out a way to tackle that backline, tackle Cutie and Eugenium when it comes to all this. And along with that, making sure Unstoppable isn't in your back line, deleting all these squishy 80 carries that you have on your squad. So Bethany, they need to make sure they can push this tempo as much as they can.
They do.
And the next 15 seconds, they got two objectives. They can go for either or. They can go for the Baron that's in 10 or go for the Soul Point that's in 30. They have to pick their poison and then hopefully try and clutch out this fight.
Well, right now, they do have a little bit of a reprieve, because that is the nice thing about having an Ornn, is getting these Ornn upgraded items.
Yep.
You can see that they have had 3 of them now locked in. It makes it a lot easier for the side of Bethany. That gives them essentially a larger gold lead than they already have. And so Bethany are trying to see if they can at least find a pick onto someone. A kick coming in on her.
Okay.
Nice pick coming in from the side of Berkeley. But into the backline, Wizard is going to
down.
get the kill into Eugenium. I'm trying to see if he can cut it back, but Hollywood
Unstoppable.
taking a bunch of the damage. Trying to flash away. But
Unstoppable.
Looking to see if Cutie can get into the backline yet again. Wizard is trying to run away, but the run over the wall. They lock down a double kill for Berkeley. The Golden Bears are looking golden in this fight. They've completely routed the Vikings.
And you see Berkeley stepping themselves up around this dragon to make sure that Bethany isn't going to get a Soul Point. This is what I was talking about, Alex. This competition turns online around this mark, and they definitely done so, especially off a kick from Rex Required. Rafa was speaking some truth, man. This guy got some spice, and he find the correct kick on a Freeze who still had that flash, too. Alex, he could have flashed away, but he got caught mad off guard with that kick, and it's working out. Bethany Esports, they have to see if they can salvage this situation.
But how can they? They've lost that dragon that would have given them the soul. They've lost the tier 1 that gives Berkeley more control themselves. And now they've got a ton of gold to be able to spend themselves. They're going to be able to back off, repeat, now go immediately top lane to make sure that Bethany can't just sneak away another Baron.
Yeah, honestly, very curious. Hunter, that's fine. Eugenium.
Eugenium, though, smart call on putting the gravity field, trying to see if he can disengage, but he's dead. Even with him going
coming in.
Weatherman trying to save the flag, he's able to flash away, and they've got Hollywood. He turns it around. He ain't dead yet, and with the blast cone away, Hunter barely going to be able to survive.
Yeah, but Baron's still on the tail, man, and with Hollywood being down, it just gives UC Berkeley a chance to just walk in. And smart start from Eugenium on that, but let's take a look at this mid-game fight, man. Take a look at Rex, and take a look at this kick.
It's the kick and the ward hop that come in. That's what's so good
Watch
about this.
man.
They see them split apart, and he uses Solora to be able to get there.
Yeah, clean kick flash from that, and this basically just turns on to a gigantic slugfest. But Cutie still alive, unstoppable, still perfectly fine. Look at himself. Even if he gets exhausted, he's threatening Wizardish, and this is the danger of Vladimir in the back line. He's just able to delete everyone, especially with this empowered Q, empowered E. Like, right now, if I'm Bethany, I gotta be really afraid of how I want to approach these fights now.
UC Berkeley are in a perfect position. They have been waiting out this game.
Oh, they're
You've
starting
got
this?
3 items completed now for Unstoppable, and it is Bethany trying the YOLO strat onto the Baron, trying to see if they can bait in another fight. Here's the call of the Forge God. Magnus onto Eugenium. The Eugenium is the target. He's dead, but keep an eye on Unstoppable. He's at least keeping Wizardish completely zoned away. They've got the kill on a freeze, and Unstoppable is still alive. It doesn't matter if he's in the middle of 3 members trying to be able to get away. Finally, Hunter's able to go on a rampage, and Solora was able to get a knockup and flashing over the wall to be able to survive, followed up by Cutie. Oh, man. Was able to get the kill they need.
Cutie's still alive.
And the resets, looking for Hunter. Hunter trying to be able to jump back onto Cutie. Finally gets the kill they need to, with Wizardish showing up just in time for the ace coming in from Bethany.
Man, Bethany made a Hail Mary. This is something we see all the time in LPL, where if you want to just start a fight, start up the Baron. Force UC Berkeley to walk up and approach, and you will see what happens. Eugenium gets caught off guard off that engage, and because he's off the table, the utility that what he provides, the Chaos Storm and the Gravity Field, isn't there. He was unable to exhaust anyone, and even though Unstoppable is doing a good job, it doesn't matter because you're down a fight right off the bat. Look at Eugenium, man. He just throws out the Gravity Field. No chance to throw on Chaos Storm. No chance. Actually, it doesn't even look like he has exhaust available too, but at the back end, though, Cutie was doing a good job. Unstoppable also doing a good job. Wizards recognized that he has to back away, but this is where I wonder if Cutie making a bold decision. That's an incorrect decision of hopping over the wall. Because look at him, he hops over the wall on a Solera, and then he actually jumps to Hunter.
Yeah.
And this is where, even though Hunter, usually, we take a look at Xin Zhao, he's not really a good team fighter. In any sort of isolated one-on-one, he deletes anyone. Same exact thing that happens to AD carries, and Hunter managed to just fight Cutie right in his face. He's going to take that 9 times out of 10.
I think you need to peel back and make sure you keep that distance. You had at least Solora there to be... You had just the benefit of teammates to be there, to be able to give you distance from the side of Hunter. And they needed to be able to realize that. Cutie needed to be able to utilize that Weatherman was still there to try to be able to get away. And now they've lost Baron. They've lost that control. They were able to grapple away from Bethany. And now I do believe we have the accurate gold graphs at the top with a 7,000 gold lead for Bethany, plus having all those Ornn upgraded items. They have an even larger gold lead going into this next team fight.
Yeah, I think majority of that's coming from the jungle. Unstoppable going to get called down. Oh, no.
Penguin Pool. But look at this. There's no team to back you up here, Unstoppable. And with the kill for Freeze, that means that this should be the soul picked up by Bethany.
Yeah, but look at what UC Berkeley are doing. They're trying to see if they can get that mid-priority and then set themselves up for the top side. But I don't know if they can. You already see Bethany Esports answering this offensive play, and now they're covering a lot of options. Now, if I'm UC Berkeley, I got to be real scared. Because you're going to be playing against Soul Point, you're going to be playing against this very strong ornamental items squad, and then for UC Berkeley, you have to depend on Unstoppable to get to that back line. If he doesn't get there, it's real tough.
He does have TP, can be able to join up into the fight, but that damage onto Cutie, just one W coming in from Wizardish, is going to force off Cutie completely from the fight and try to see if they can reset, but Berkeley now push back to the wall. They had had these great fights earlier on. They've got to be so careful and so defensive to be able to keep this game going, but they're losing the first inhibitor turn of the game.
Oh, whoa, Rex!
Okay. They've tried to go for the start of the fight. Nice Magnet Storm from Hollywood. But look at Rex still alive in the middle of them. Unstoppable, unfortunately dead. Same with Weather. And there goes
That
Rex.
might be
The
it.
follow-up coming in with the Killer Instinct. Triple kill coming in from Wizardish. He wants Eugenium. He wants to be able to get a quadra kill. And it's going to be Bethany looking to take game 1.
And of course, Wizards dies in the final donated, but good stuff on Bethany, man. Finally, they find clean team fights back-to-back into one around the Baron and one at the end to kind of secure themselves the lead. UC Berkeley, though, they were looking real good. They're looking real tough, holding themselves when it comes to the way they're playing. And at the end of the day, Alex, I gotta say, 34 minutes in, this is the longest game we had this entire day.
It is.
And if I'm looking at
least
UC
for
Berkeley,
the round of 32.
yeah, if I'm looking at UC Berkeley, I feel like I have a chance playing against Bethany Esports and taking them because there are good fights off of Rex, off of Unstoppable, off of all these things, but only small individual mistakes costed them some of these fights. And if UC Berkeley manages to just hold up these mistakes in the offense, they should be okay.
Exactly. It was definitely a good showing coming in from UC Berkeley and giving us some light of what might be able to happen. They might be able to make this a 3-game series. We've only, I think, had one other series go 3 games so far in the round of 32. And as the desk had said, as you had said, this is looking like it might be our closest series so far.
This is where I wonder how the mental state of UC Berkeley is doing. You know, are they a-okay? You know, are they feeling kind of tilted? Are they, be like, what, just shrug it off, it's all good. We had a solid draft, we had solid answers, we just kind of misplayed in the execution. And at the end of the day, that's what it was. Alex, they made some fights in the early game. They shouldn't have fallen that early scuttle because they're a little bit weaker on that end because Victor versus Lucian wins that no matter what. And then, of course, just some of these little individual mistakes that got caught when it came to these ganks from Hunter. But if I'm Bethany, just got to make sure I'm playing a cleaner game. That's all it is for Bethany, man. Making sure that we're not making these kind of mistakes, making sure that we're being mindful of our situation when it comes to these approaches, and knowing that UC Berkeley can call some of these bluffs.
And with that, Bethany Esports going to take game 1 over the Cal Bears over UC Berkeley. We're going to toss it back over to our analyst desk. They're going to break down this game a little bit further. And why don't you take it away, Cubby?
Thank you so much, Mad Magical and Chilling Walk. I gotta say, I can feel Chilling Walk sweating from here after that game 1. It was rather a close series and a little bit of a scare there for Bethany. And I love how the Golden Bears were pushing back into that game, but in the end, it just wasn't enough. And I mean, I just want to dive straight into the replays as we promised to be one of the closest series that we had on this stream so far. And I'd say that both these teams delivering as we had a 35-minute slugfest from each of these squads. And Uni, I actually want to start off with you and going way back. We can take our minds back to that first fight of the game. The 10-man party on the bot crab ended up going Bethany's way and was one of the ways that they started to find themselves an early goal lead and an early lead in the first 15 minutes of the game.
Yeah, definitely. So, here we see eventually everybody shows up here for the crab. But first we have Hunter coming in with the Xin Zhao. And really just everybody piling in. We see TPs coming out for Bethany, and it's just really a fiesta. I think that's the only way that we can describe this one.
Yeah, it feels like, Bethany, Will pointed it out on the cast. They were the first to TP with Solura, and I think that, decisiveness with that teleport is really what won them the fight, just because they had more bodies faster. And in these early game skirmishes, oftentimes it's more so just about, which team is in a better position and which team has more members, because, the champions aren't very different at this point. Every champion, level 3, level 4, they have the same items and everything. Bethany just pulling the trigger on that TP, they knew that they wanted to commit to that skirmish, and it paid off.
Yeah, and for UC, they did fall behind rather early, but that said, I like the fact that they bided their time, they waited out the first 2 dragons, and they tried to fight at the 3rd dragon, but that ended up going the way of Bethany as well. As you mentioned, Dylan, kind of the more power early they took in their comp, really held together by that Lucian mid being piloted by Freeze in the mid lane. Felt like it was one of the big differences that we had in that first fight. And also in the first big dragon fight that we saw as well at the 3rd dragon, as Bethany and Berkeley, that was the first time we really saw them clash, and Bethany with that early lead really making good use of that in this team fight.
Yeah, I mean, their team composition was just set up for these early skirmishes. They had the Lucian mid on freeze, as you highlighted. They had Xin Zhao in the jungle, that wacky R5 pick that really blew up this draft. And it's such good positioning. You know, Hollywood willing to tank the dragon for a little bit just to set up Solura for a beautiful Ornn ultimate. And this is just the exact kind of team fighting that you want to see from Bethany. I mean, the players are playing it out perfectly. Vladimir's exhausted at the perfect point. Tristana is basically nullified, does nothing in the fight, jumps in just to die, and it ends up being almost a full ace. They don't quite get Rex required on the end of this. Solura chases him down for a while, but they get the dragon, and I mean, the Cal Bears at this point, things weren't really looking that good, and they actually end up pulling it back. But this is really when the game gets difficult because you give up a gold lead to champions that snowball so hard and things just get difficult.
That's exactly what ended up happening. But I know that one of the things that the comp that Bethany ended up drafting for themselves kind of struggled with as the game went on is actually their short range, with the Kai'Sa Lucian being their two carries and a little bit more lacking on the magic damage as well. They have Sun from the Ornn and the Kai'Sa, but it definitely seemed like it was something that they struggled with. And I know that Berkley, I mean, props to them. They kept that mental fortitude and really started to turn things around.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they did have a little bit of a resurgence, and that's a common theme that we've seen in these games over the past few series is these teams that are behind early on, they'll actually end up mounting a little bit of a comeback. And I think it's good because it's showing that these teams are not willing to give up early, but as kind of TJ was pointing out on previous desks, and we've talked about before, you need to start making these proactive plays earlier on into the game. You need to start kind of devising a game plan that isn't, hey, like, let's be okay with falling behind thousands of gold and then fight back later on. I want to see some of these teams like the Cal Bears. They need to really just step up their early game decision making and their gameplay. Maybe swap some things around in the draft or item builds. We saw that not a lot of armor was being built against a team composition that is basically 5 auto attackers. You know, the Ornn offering a little bit of magic damage. There's some other elements of magic damage, but everyone auto attacks on this team, and we didn't really see Ninja Tabis come in, or I guess plated steel caps nowadays. But yeah, I mean, it just felt like the Cal Bears not really understanding how to win this game.
Yeah, I know that the Victor, the Vladimir, the scaling that they had, it wasn't enough in the end. But we talked about kind of the resistance, the tenacity that team showed, and Uni. I think the highlight, if you are a fan of Berkley, you've got to go think about this replay and the kick that we saw from that Lee Sin. I mean, what a turn in this fight that Lee Sin was able to put down and really almost put things all in control of Berkley. Made this a very close game.
Absolutely. And as a League fan myself, I think Lee Sin was probably the highlight of when I started watching. And I love watching this kind of content, you know, seeing it come back this season has been really just a great moment for me. So really enjoyed this play.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of kick that's going to make it into like a Lee Sin montage if Rex wants to make that later on. I mean, that's beautiful. And that's exactly how you win these team fights when you're down thousands of gold. But, I mean, I'm going to harp on an earlier point. Imagine if these fights were happening when the gold's even, or if the Cal Bears are even just ahead. I mean, the game is so different because that could mean that they could go to Baron. That could mean that they could get, you know, closer to Dragon Soul. But instead, that's the kind of fight where, like, they ward off the Dragon Soul for a few more minutes, but it's just not enough when Bethany's up so much.
Yeah, that was the golden boot there from Lee Sin, almost brought back the game. And we saw the Vladimir Unstoppable starting to become just an absolute terror on that pick, the scaling that he's able to bring in for these team fights. And Bethany, this was a scary part of the game for them. They felt like they needed something to happen, and what do we see out of the team from the Midwest, from the North region? Immediately, they start up the Baron. They get the game-winning fight they needed to turn things back around in their favor. And Dylan, this is honestly do or die for Bethany in this situation. They're getting outscaled. They're getting outranged by the Victor and the Vladimir. They needed this fight to go their way, and they were able to make it happen thanks to some great individual plays coming out from their team.
Yeah, I mean, that you couldn't have said it any better. It's the Bethany boys, they stepped up right here. Beautiful Ornn ultimate, just clips the Victor. Hollywood dives in on top of him. And as soon as Eugenium is taken down, the fight's almost over. We see that Cutie actually on the Tristana pulls things back a bit. He ends up getting that kill over on the Lucian, picks up the kill into Solura, I believe, and then he tries his best to clean things up. But I mean, Bethany is just so tanky at this point. They have these 3 bruiser champions that just want to get in here, and Hunter on the.
I mean, watch
on
Hunter,
the,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is just insane. This is why they last picked the Xin Zhao. He's playing these fights so well. Wizardish heals up off the mid lane, comes back in to clean up the fight, and it's just so beautiful from Bethany. That's really the nail in the coffin. I think we see them end with that Baron buff as well.
Yeah, it was just one more team fight in the base, and Bethany ends up taking that first game. And I know that you especially were talking about kind of the coaching. We mentioned Colmer. That first draft was a little bit unique. They definitely lacked a little bit of magic damage, but the comfort that this team they had with everyone playing the champions, it felt like they were really in their element and able to take things in the end. As I know their comp might not be the strongest on paper, but for those 5 players, definitely seemed like something that they were comfortable with. And they ended up winning the game. And I'm curious, Unit, coming from the perspective of Berkeley, what is it like, as a team manager after that game 1 loss, kind of regrouping as a team and trying to get yourself back in that headspace to take it to the Rift for game 2?
I definitely think for the Cal Bears, the priority is to regroup and recognize that Bethany did make a couple of mistakes, that they aren't, safe from mistakes, and that there are some things that the Cal Bears can capitalize on. I think that it's definitely far from over, and if they can focus on just making sure that all the players are comfortable, they're in a good headspace, I think that, we should have a very interesting series moving forward.
It's definitely what we're hoping for, and the most entertaining series that we have had so far, just with one 35-minute game on the stream. I know, talking with Mad Magical and Shilling Walk between streams are like, man, like every single time we come on, it's like a 22, 23-minute, win. And I'm sure that Will would have liked that for his Bethany boys, but unfortunately, we're graced with a rather closely contested series and good performance coming out from Berkeley despite the loss. Even better performance coming out from Bethany as they take that game 1 win. And kind of final thoughts before we get back into the game, get back to the casters, bring us all the action. I'm going to go to you, Dylan, for your last thoughts as a player, kind of leaning into your experience with the jungle as well. Hunter pulled out a Xin Zhao into the Lee Sin, throwing it back to like season 2, season 3 meta, or maybe like season 6, season 7. I know that Hunter as a player has a lot of experience, a little bit of a unique champion pool, definitely likes to bring that flavor into the jungle. Is this something you think that Bethany, they're going to keep on leaning into as we go into the series? Or do you think they're going to return to something a little bit more stock standard and maybe lean into some of those AP champions now that they find themselves on the blue side?
Yeah, I think if Bethany in game 1 is willing to draft basically 5 AD champions just to make sure that Hunter is comfortable, I don't think he's going to switch up his champion pool too much. I mean, we even saw they banned Rumble, Morgana, Diana. Who are the 3 new AP junglers this patch? It's Rumble, Morgana, Diana. So that screams to me that either Hunter is not comfortable on those champions, so he doesn't want to play against them or play them, or maybe Bethany hasn't been able to practice that much on the new patch. Their last competitive matches, I believe, were like 11.5, maybe even earlier, just because they were knocked out and then voted in later on. So it's going to be interesting to see. I expect Hunter to stick with his comfortable champion pool, the tanky, supportive junglers, things like Xin Zhao as well, if they need a carry threat. I don't think they're going to change too much.
Yeah, I know that from talking with the Bethany squad and the Berkeley squad beforehand, both teams felt rather confident. Bethany definitely has this aura of, kind of being jovial, joking around. I know coming into this, they had the tagline that we are the most fun program in the tournament, as they are going for the fun award, as those players like to have a good time. And kind of being in that team environment, how important is that throughout like the long, grueling season? We talked about before game 1, the fact that you have a lot of games and a lot of competitions to get here. How much does it help a team to kind of have that lighthearted attitude and have a team that's rather close together as you go through that season and go through a competitive series like this one?
I definitely think that when you're competing and going through not only just the regular season, but through playoffs onto nationals, it can be a pretty heavy burden. So I think for these players, having a good attitude, having a good team environment is definitely going to relieve some of that stress, because at the end of the day, whatever the result is, you know that you still have your team, you still got your friends. So I definitely think that, being at the most fun program, not going to throw out any claims for any other schools. But I think that it's definitely going to be a plus, because at the end of the day, people do make mistakes, or you have a bad game or whatever, and that can help. And also when you win, it feels even better to win with friends, right? So definitely a good thing.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to see if they can take this next game and get those 4 McChickens that Hunter loves to get when he goes to McDonald's. If you don't know what I'm referencing, definitely go check out that interview, Bethany Esports, on their Twitter. They've got that up. And we're going to have to see if Berkeley can come roaring back and if the Cal Bears can bring us something new to the table and take this game 2 to extend the series. But to see if they're able to do that, got to send it back over to Mad Magical and Chilling Walk to take us back through all the action of this game 2.